Welcome to Buddha's in Your Landfill. Hope you recognize me. You see, I got a haircut the last time I was here. Anyway, today I wanted to talk about well, first of all, Buddha's in your landfill is another way of awakening the creative everyday mind. The Buddha in your landfill is a metaphor for awakening your creative mind in your everyday world, which is your house, your relationships, your town, your Facebook. Wherever you live is your everyday mind, and your everyday mind is your everyday world. So these talks are a discovery process on how to awaken the creative mind, or the Buddha, in your landfill, which is your creative everyday mind. And today I wanted to talk about the goddess at the Super Bowl. Now we think in our everyday, rational, enlightened, scientific, materialistic, empirical world that mythology is dead. Mythology is something the Greeks lived in. Mythology was something that primitives used to explain the world because they didn't have science, or mythology is fairy tales or whatever. No, not so. We live in mythology, but we don't see it. So what is the greatest mythology? And by the way, mythology is ritual, okay? And all I know about mythology is what I read in Joseph Campbell. So this is not original stuff. I'm just applying it to everyday mind and everyday world. And mythology is enlivened or activated through ritual, okay? And ritual is something that we repeat, like in Groundhog Day. And we do it over and over and over. And when we do it over, it's like it's for the first time. If you notice a football game, there's two ways to look at the football game. There's one from the person who participates in the ritual, and they watch the football game as if it's for the first time. But if you look at the football game from outside of the ritual, it looks like the same football game. If you turn on a football game, and if you don't know the story of the players and the static, where it is, who's playing, what time in the season, all of those, all that goes into the story. If you just look at the play, it looks like the same play, just a bunch of men, when the ball is snapped, running into each other, and then putting the ball down, and then running into each other, and then putting the ball down. So it's the same play over and over, unless you know the story. But the football game itself is a national ritual, and the Super Bowl is the greatest ritual of all. It draws everybody into it. The whole world comes in and watches the Super Bowl, like all of the Roman Empire watching the Colosseum. The whole world is focused on that game. And where does the game take place? But in an oval. And what is the oval a symbol of mythologically? The goddess. The goddess in myth is the womb, is the space that contains form. Form rises and falls within the space of the goddess. So the mythology of the goddess is that she is the space that holds creation. She is creation. She makes creation come, and she makes it go away. So the Super Bowl now then is a mythological reenactment of this cosmic play of the goddess and form. So now what happens in the field, which is the little patch of green down there, as like a postage stamp you see on this great letter of the crowds, and the oval that holds the goddess. And notice how these ovals are as great as the Gothic cathedrals in the Middle Ages. They're huge. And so what happens in the field of play is that two teams meet and combat within a structure of rules to be number one. Okay, so the goal of the ritual is to arrive at through competition and struggle, the unique one that has no second. So the football team that wins the Super Bowl is the unique one team that has no second. It's defeated all the seconds. Just like Trump, when he arrived at the nomination, he was the nominee without a second. He had defeated all of the players, you see. So the football game is a ritual, a reenactment of this cosmic ritual, and it's important in America because this is America's myth. America arrives at number one through competition of two teams. So you have the Democrats and the Republicans competing to be who's number one, which is who's America for today, you see. So if you look at everything in our life, it is a field of competition to arrive at the single idea, the invention, the political party, whoever's in control. Marriages are a ritual, and who's number one in a marriage, you see. So you get the competition of male and female to be number one. Some marriages are dominated by one side or the other. A balanced marriage is when you change back and forth. I'm number one today because I'm good at this, and you're number one over there tomorrow because you're good at that. So that's a balance. But the imbalanced one is where one side has to be number one forever, you see. I'm absolutely number one and you're gone. But anyway, I don't want to digress. So we're looking at the Super Bowl then, that as a ritual of a cosmic dance where form competes to be number one. And the number one, you see, is the one the goddess accepts. Just like in biology, the egg accepts the number one sperm that gets there. So the sperm that defeats all the other sperm is the number one, and the goddess accepts him. So the Super Bowl, if the goddess is the oval and the goddess is the crowd, they accept the number one who wins in the battle of competition and combat, you see. So this is really the American, installed in the American way of life because it is excellence through struggle, right? Steve Jobs struggled to bring out a product of excellence. And so it was always a competition and a struggle of ideas to become the number one. And when the product was conceived, everybody knew that was it. It's like you don't know what it is until you see it, you see. But of course, in football, as a ritual, of course, we don't know the number one until it plays out in the game. And then we see it. Aha, we have number one. So this is a ritual of a cosmic play between the goddess who creates the field of combat through rules. Now, there have to be rules because if there were no rules, you would just get the ball and run off the field. Or you might have a gun and shoot the other team, you see. So the rules are no guns, and you have to stay on the field, right? And it's very structured in the rules. So the rules can create the intensity of the combat. If you take away the rules, there's no intensity of the combat. So the combat, you see, increases the intensity or the creative energy, you see. When the teams are, when you have two master teams together, which is what the Super Bowl is, two master teams, the combat is very intense because they're so equally matched. If they're not matched, there's no energy. Oh God, I might as well go home. This is 60-0, you see. But if it's 32-31, this tremendous energy is created, and this is creative energy, you see. So in life, this energy can go two ways. It can go into destructive violence if you have a combat where one cannot achieve dominance over the other. It'll end up in violence, like a tomcat fight. If you watch tomcats, that's two ones vying to be number one, right? So they're there. Oh, wow, 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 and you can hear it build. Wow, wow, and it builds and builds and builds. And either one of them blinks and whimpers away, or they suddenly, at some unpredictable moment, they clash in total violence, extreme you can't imagine the violence when these two, if you, of course, we all see this, but when they meet like that, it's just absolutely released rage, because it's the rage to be number one. There can only be one without a second. You see, I think I just hit my little thing here. You see what I mean? So the longer this combat lasts, the more energy is created. And well, then look at the Palestinians and the Jews in Israel. There you have two tomcats who have been vying to who's the number one, who is Jerusalem, who is Israel, this group or that group, and so they compete and they fight, and the tension builds. And when it reaches a intolerable point where it cannot be contained, two things happen. Either it goes into extreme violence, which will be a civil war of utter destruction, or it can be a creative idea that unites the two in a new oval, you see. So when these two, and this is the creative way, which is the ideal way, of course, to achieve the one. The one is achieved by the union of the two opposites in a single idea that contains the two. So you create a new oval, a new idea that contains the two, you see. And so the ritual of the Super Bowl continues every year. Football and the Super Bowl continues every year because every year is a new world, a new idea, a new game. And we all enter into it as if it were for the first time, you see. We're right back where we started, and I'm so excited. Hunting is that way. It's a ritual, and the hunters go into the new season as if it were the first time. And so we go into the rituals of sports each season as if it's for the first time, even though if you step back and it would look exactly like the last one, you see. But we experience it as the first time because it's renewing us, you see. The rituals renew us, you see. And this is the same way in which the ritual of the Eucharist and the Mass, when it's properly understood and practiced and with its mythological content, you see the Mass renews us. So there are two ways of looking at this, and I think the Super Bowl is a great way of understanding America, and it's a great way of understanding how the rituals that we participate in our life are really great cosmic rituals that are universal in all cultures in different ways, in different forms, and they renew us or they destroy us, you see. It can go either way.